Welcome back, everybody. We have a new episode for you of We're Not Okay, a community of healing. I, of course, am one of your hosts. I am Justin Stewart, and I am, as always, joined by my co-host.
Dr. Antija Allen.
And we have a very different, but different in a great way when I talk about the conversation that we all have coming for you all. We have the distinct pleasure of being joined by two individuals, married couple,
Yes,
business partners.
yes,
We are joined today by Dr. Karleena Tuggle-McDaniel
Yes.
and Darian McDaniel. They are both
correct.
co-founders of Pro BLK Health. So before we get into the actual interview, into the discussion, we like to give our guests their flowers while we can. So Dr. Karleena is
Yes.
a board certified bariatric surgeon and health advocate, helping patients reclaim their health and confidence. Darian is a health and nutrition advocate and entrepreneur, leading Pro Black Health's mission to advance wellness and direct support to Black communities. Together, we're here to talk about something that's very, very, very important from us for all age ranges. We're here to talk about health, we're here to talk about empowerment, and we're here about creating lasting impact. Everyone, welcome Dr. Karleena and Darian McDaniel.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. We're glad to be here. We're glad to be here. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure to have you. It's a pleasure to have you. So, for all those that have listened to this podcast before, watched it, we usually give like a little bit of a longer bio. But looking at you all's history, I felt why not better to hear from you all, just because the origin story of you all individually, your particular paths, when your paths crossed, how it became pro-Black health. That's a story in and of itself, and
Mhm.
I wouldn't dare ruin it by trying to give anybody a shortened version. So as we kick off, all right, so from either Dr. K or Darian, can you let us know in your own areas, what were your own respective paths when it came to this stage, when it came about health, when it came about wellness? We've already shared a little bit about your respective backgrounds, but give a little bit more context on your own background and kind of where it led to you wanting to pursue something that would ultimately lead to pro-Black health.
Okay, well, I'll start.
Yeah, go
I
ahead,
think
babe.
mine is a little bit more of an obvious journey, if you will. But I'm from New York. I did med school and residency at Howard in DC, and then I moved to Atlanta. So almost all of my medical career has been in Black and Brown communities. And you get used to that and you take it for granted. But I also, as a bariatric surgeon, which is the surgical treatment of obesity, and we all know all of the ailments that come with obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. But I did a lot of emergency room call, which was just in general. And I find that instead of preventative care, often we are ultimately leading ourselves to catastrophic care, very reactive. We have these ailments that we are either choosing not to treat or unable to treat for a number of reasons, but we come to get help from the emergency room when it's far past just, oh, let me write you this prescription. Oh, let's just tinker that. Um, a lot of amputations, people come in because, oh, I've had this sore that hasn't healed on my foot and I'm still working, but for today it's as really bad, having no idea that they were going to leave the hospital in a week with one less leg. Or people in their 30s and 40s having strokes because they have no idea their blood pressure is ridiculously high. I just see just the extremes of Black people who are young in age but old in disease. And it just always made me sad because I feel like we are better than what our society has led us to believe is our health legacy. And just because it has been like that doesn't mean that it has to stay like that. Because I feel like each one of us is, could be the representative for the group for people who don't know Black people in general. And I want us all to, not only for our individual selves and our community, live our best healthy lives, but show that we can, because there's an assumption that we don't care about our health. There's an assumption that, that's the last thing on our list. And for a lot of people, it is not a priority, but it's something that we can change and hopefully influence how other people feel, that we just don't disregard our health the way that public opinion would allow the masses to believe. So seeing that, I had a lot of frustrations. And then me coming home and talking about it all the time is where Darian came in for us to come up with this idea and movement.
Yeah, so we got married 8 years now. But when we got married, we made a vow that we were going to do something to give back to the Black community. I had been an executive for about 25 years in the media space, and but I'd been very successful, but I had never given back. But I was always complaining about the community, like why we're not doing this, why we're not doing that. But that was just something that was I wanted to change. And so I was working a lot in marketing and media, and I had another company. And with her frustration of coming home, like you always say, I loved her Saturday, but I hated her Tuesday, because she'd be coming home so frustrated with the health of Black people. And I'd be like, what's wrong? She's like, we're just not doing the minimum to take care of ourselves. And one day she came in, I was working on something, and she was so, frustrated. And I was like, damn, do I hear about it again? You so pro-Black health. And that's how it started. It was like
Yeah,
and then
that's
I was
how
like,
it
that's got a ring to it and a name to it. And then we found out that the CDC had said that 92% of African Americans are vitamin and mineral deficient. And being a marketing executive, I worked with a lot of brands that targeted the Black community, from liquor to potato chips to candy, and how they had these unique marketing strategies just to target our community. Names, color, they knew us better than we knew ourselves, so to speak, but they had a whole branding just to get to our community. And so I was like, you know what? Let's start a vitamin brand, but we're going to target it for our community. And then we're going to use that same marketing strategy with colors and branding and cool names and a vibe to make health cool. And then that's how we came with Pro Black Health Vitamins. And that brings us here today.
Bum, bum.
It-
Ting.
It's see, and it would have been terrible to say that in the intro. So thank you very much for giving us
No problem.
the humble beginnings of where you all started. It's the the actual marriage that came from or the literal marriage that came from you all's marriage of health advocacy, your work being in the medical field, your work being in marketing, and how the literal marriage of those two things were able to create something as exciting, as beneficial as pro-Black health. So again, thank you very much. And what you all are very critical and yeah, critical about saying is the need for Black empowerment and for wellness. Dr. K, as you mentioned, many times we may kind of not rest on the laurels, but just take take something for fact of, oh, if that's what someone says, that's my story, then that's my story. You turn that and it's like you can create your own story. I think for many of us, you may go to the doctor and you may have some, well, Black individuals are more dispositioned to, so this is kind of your story, and it doesn't really give you an opportunity to change it. So I'm glad that
Mhm.
you both challenge it and say, I can write my story. I can create the story that I want for myself and for the generations with me, the generations after me, or in some instances, the generations before me, because it's about creating something that has an everlasting impact. So I'm glad that you all both exist. I'm glad that you all have created this service, these products for individuals. Going into the actual business of pro-Black health, when you all were really looking at like the healthcare and supplement industries, I think for some of us, like for myself, when I go to the doctor, I have deficiencies in B12, you have deficiencies in calcium, you have all these different deficiencies. What what gaps when it comes to the community did you really see as most urgent to address when you're looking at healthcare and maybe how healthcare speaks to us a little bit more from what you shared earlier, and then when it actually came to supplements? Because when we think about supplements now, we think of bodybuilders, we think of not even bodybuilders, people that go to the gym and they're always taking creatine or they're taking all these different types of supplements. But when it comes to my day-to-day life, one of the reasons why I did want to make this connection was I was telling Antija of I always noticed for her and her family, she was very she's been very critical of making sure that her and her kids and her husband, they take vitamins. So
Mhm.
but it's not something that's necessarily always spoken about. This is what you should be doing, as opposed to, hey, the doctor prescribes you to take it and then you take it. So what led to this proactive nature of it? And when you again looked at the healthcare and supplement industries, what gaps did you feel that you could fill with with Pro Black Health?
Well, I'll let her speak on the supplements. I mean, on the different vitamin deficiencies. But I just wanted to give you kind of a round view of the supplement space. You know, getting in the supplement space, I didn't realize how many supplements are not good. I think that was one of the key things that I learned. You know, you think you just go on Walgreens and pick something off the shelf, and you know, all supplements are not created equal. And that was a real misnomer I had, but really looking at what's out there and what's third party tested, what really works, you know, and all those things. So really looking into the different manufacturing and the best way to manufacture and make sure that you have the vitamin levels where they need to be, and starting from a good product was something that I didn't know, that it's hard to kind of relate to our community sometimes. It's like, oh, I bought a BOGO at Walgreens. I'm like, oh, okay. But, you know, it's just, there are different specifics on different quality and variety and third party testing. And so we made sure we had the best. So I'll let you go into the different gaps as far as vitamin deficiencies.
So being a surgeon, I'm not like a primary care physician where, once a year you're going to come in and hopefully get like a comprehensive overview and we check your lab work and such. But with weight loss surgery, I had to check labs on a regular basis for almost all of my patients, and that includes vitamins. And I noticed that vitamin D and iron were 70% or more deficient in my patients who were not taking supplementation. And I think when we think about malnutrition, we like envision, someone who's really skinny, or we think about, not to feed into that trope, but those commercials with the poor little African kids with their bellies poking out and the flies, like we think that, but you can be overweight and still be malnourished. So how do you have all of these overweight people? It's because you're not putting nutrition into your body. You're eating, but that doesn't mean that it is nutritious and able to give you the building blocks to kind of take care of yourself. And when I ask my patients, oh, why don't you take, one, did you know? Usually it's no. Two, well, if you did know, why don't you take vitamins? Oh, I don't like how it tastes. I don't like taking pills. I don't like taking medicine. Or I eat healthy. There are so many reasons why people feel that, they don't need supplements, even if they're young and they feel good. Sometimes that's the reason. I don't feel anything like anything is wrong with me. So how is that going to help me? And it just showed me how a lot of people are not thinking the long game with their health. They're thinking about the today. I feel good today. Well, tomorrow, who knows what you could be diagnosed with? Who knows what kind of symptom you're going to have? But how do we focus on, while we're still feeling good, doing the preemptive measures to try to increase us feeling good? So lengthening our health span, not just our lifespan. And what is something that is pretty affordable, that anyone can do for the most part on a regular basis to add to their health regimen? Because the vitamins is just the conversation starter and one piece of the puzzle, right? So when we try to fill in these nutritional gaps, we also want to do education on exercise and sleep hygiene and mental health, and the different illnesses that we may be genetically predisposed to, but the lifestyle that is not pulling us away from that direction is actually pushing us to our perceived fate without us even knowing. And it was, okay, this is something that's tangible. People can understand it to some degree, but it's just one thing to increase health awareness and consciousness. And then that kind of butterflies or branches out into the other aspects of health that people do need to pay attention to.
Thank you. I really appreciate this conversation. As Justin said, I love me some vitamins in this family. It's like everybody line up. Okay, here's yours. Here's yours. But I grew up with the Flintstone vitamins. My
Mhm.
mother actually worked at Walgreens, and so maybe that's probably why we had also so many multivitamins in the house. Um, and so one thing that you mentioned, you actually called out two chronic conditions that we hear a lot about when we talk about, especially the Black community, which are diabetes and stroke. Um, Another one, and we had a episode recently, and we touched on this, is cancer, right?
Yes.
And I was wondering, when it comes to your product development, how do you, I guess, shape that product development to meet those chronic conditions, to make sure that you're serving people who either have those chronic conditions, have had experience with them, or are at a higher risk for them?
Yeah, we have three chronic illness formulas. We have one for high blood pressure, one for diabetes, and one for high cholesterol. And these are herbs and minerals and vitamins that specifically target for those ailments. And it helps you along the way. Like if you're already there, it's about not getting the pre-diabetes. It's about trying to take something to help you with the herbs and vitamins, not get these different illnesses. Now, you still just can't go eat anything. Like you just can't pop two and you good, but we make sure that we have products that target those specific chronic illnesses.
And then even with our more basic formulas, right? So we have a basic or like a good foundational gummy multivitamin, and then we have a comprehensive performance multivitamin, and then we have a dedicated vitamin D and a whole range of other different supplements in between. And what a lot of people don't realize is that, like, let's say vitamin D, for instance, especially with COVID, we found out that vitamin D deficiency leads to depression, it leads to a decreased immune system, it leads to increased inflammation, it leads to bone weakness. So there's so many things that being deficient in certain minerals um, has an overarching effect on your body that you may not realize. And if you're not putting those dots together, you could be like, man, I don't feel good, or I don't realize how much better I could feel
There it is.
until I improve my overall nutrition. Because even if you were, vegan, vegetarian, or I eat this and I eat that, I mean, even the soil that our crops are grown in cannot provide the same nutrition that it did 50 plus years ago. So, giving your best effort, it's still very challenging to get everything that you need despite your desire and your efforts to eat healthy, not to mention that that is more expensive than eating what's accessible and eating what's more affordable. So you have to leverage that as well. So you really need to be in the supplement game if what you can afford to do for you and your family is going to be even more suboptimal.
And Dr. K, I'm glad that you called that out because it actually leads into the next thing I'm curious about. When it comes to being in when it comes to the vitamin game, when it comes to the supplement game, for individuals, it can be, to put it very plainly, overwhelming. Obviously, as you all have described, pro-Black health is something that you should definitely look into, definitely invest in if you want to get the supplements or the vitamins that will do your body good, for those that listen to those milk commercials. But for those that, get overwhelmed or feel like, oh, I don't want to have to take another pill, and, thinking of it like that, like more of a task when it comes to those that may not have access to pro-Black health, or they just may be in a Walgreens or they may be in a Walmart and they're trying to decipher what's good versus what's junk. Obviously, we want to have them come to Pro Black Health, but for those that are in the store and they're really trying to determine where I should be leaning versus what I should be steering away from, what advice would you give them when they're trying to figure out what's the right choice for them? What's the right type of supplement that you should be taking?
It's so difficult because the store space is so commoditized by big brand, right? And big brand, anytime you got big brand and big money, they're gonna cut every corner they can to make a profit. So sometimes you're like, oh, these only 11.99, but there's a reason why they're 11.99. You thinking it's like they have cut something out, and then a lot of times what's on the label a lot of times are not accurate to what the potency is in the vitamin, right?
Mm.
And a lot of times, the longer the vitamins sit, they lose their potency. So a lot of times they buy a lot of these brands get cheaper vitamins, but they buy so much in bulk. But by the time you get it, that vitamin 3 years old because they got the price down so low, just so you think that it's affordable. And I know it's affordable for everybody, but I always think about like even with us, we run between 20 and I think $39. But I mean, a 10-piece hot wing is it's just like to me when people say they can't afford it, but then you got a 10-piece hot wing and that's
20
50,
bucks.
20 bucks and that's one time. You got 45 days of good health. Like you can find a way and it's possible. We do the things that we want to do, right? And and I think that and it's hard to say, I can't pick particular brand, but I know so many of them are owned by the big conglomerates and they do everything to cut costs because for them it's about profit, for us it's about people. Those are like two different things, and it's with anything that you go in the store and find. So I would say stay away from the cheapest because that would be your first problem. um and then the second one, ProBLKHealth.com. I mean, that's I can't even really say. What do you
So
think,
I
Dave?
want to add to that and say, uh, first, you should have an idea about what your vitamin levels are. So if you have no clue, trying to get to some kind of primary care or some kind of clinic and see what your baseline is. Because a nice comprehensive multivitamin may be enough, but you may need extra vitamin D. You may need extra iron. You may need extra calcium. So it's hard to know even where to direct your eyes to if you don't even have an idea about what your body needs to make it beneficial to get you to where you need to be. Second, I would say, be honest about what you're willing to take. And I say that because about half, a little more than half of our products are gummies. And we can have a conversation about sugar, even though it's not that much. But um, a lot of people are not pill people, right? So our performance multivitamin is one of the best you can possibly buy.
In pill form and tablet form.
But it's in pill form and tablet form. And if you're not a pill person, your shelf will get all the nutrition in the world before you do. If you're not going to take it, you don't like how it smells, you don't like whatever the reason is. So many of our products being gummies, we were trying to reach people who do nothing and how do we make health fun and enjoyable. So a lot of them almost think of it as like a treat for themselves. So it's like, how do we build these habits? How do we make it desirable for them to want to do that? Where the health aspect of it is the goal, but it's kind of like an added benefit because I like how this tastes and I'm gonna want to do it on a daily basis anyway. So when you're looking at different supplements, it can say everything you want, but if you don't know what's on the inside and you open it and you're like, there is no way in hell I'm gonna take this pill once, much less every day, that's not the vitamin for you. So the best supplement for you is the one that you're going to take. And hopefully you know what you may be deficient in so that you can kind of target those in general and then specifically depending on the need of what your lab work and what your body is telling you.
And I think everybody should start with at least a baseline multivitamin. That's not even an option because that covers a little bit of everything. And I think that's a good place to start. Everybody at least needs to take a multivitamin every day. These are things that you have in your body. You have vitamin A in your body, right? You got B12, you got zinc, all these things. This is an engine that we're talking about. It kills me is like you want to put this, but if we get a car, a Cadillac Escalade that take premium, we don't have no problem putting premium in there. You know what I'm saying? We need to put premium in our bodies and making sure we're at the levels that we need to be. So a good multivitamin is always a good place to start.
And what I'm so glad that you all called out is I think it's to what we were talking about earlier. It's kind of so easy to, I'll just say it, nobody else has to say this, kind of adopting to me, a defeatist mentality of, oh, well, there's all these reasons why I can't do it, as opposed to, if you care about yourself, if you care about your body, if you care about your health and being able to operate in the way that you want, you'll put in the work. When it
Mhm.
comes to doing what's bad for you, it's not as much of a question, but when it comes to doing what's good for you, yes, it's a little bit more homework. Yes, I got to do a little bit more research, but when you really take a step back, what are you doing the research for? What's going to be beneficial for your health?
Mhm.
And when you frame it that way, why wouldn't you want to do that? But I think sometimes we get so caught up with all of these different reasons of, well, I can't, there's this, there's this, there's this. And then I think, unfortunately, for some communities, or if we talk about our community and based off your work, Dr. K, or even from what you've encountered or experienced, Darian, we find ourselves in situations where we want to make the turn when it's too late to make the turn. And it's kind of a situation where, okay, well, you're dealing with all these different ailments. When you go back a few years of, oh, well, if I would have cut back on X, Y, and Z, then, I wouldn't be where I am now. So it's kind of trying to be proactive, but I think it's just so much easier to, for lack of better words, not to shortchange or minimize anybody's experience, but we really have to kind of look back and say, hey, are you potentially shortchanging yourself? Are you really trying to like take a shortcut or do something that's a little bit easier? Just because whether it's supplements or vitamins or eating healthier food, sometimes that route can be a little bit more expensive. But if we're talking about short-term gains, short-term losses versus the long term, if you want to be here for the long term, you have to invest in yourself. And that's part of the investment. So thank you both very much for calling that out very plainly.
Yeah, pay now or pay later.
Yeah, but you
You
you gonna
gonna
pay.
you gonna
You gonna pay.
pay.
Basically.
So
So
go ahead.
one of the things that I also love about you all and what you do is just invest in your investment in health and wellness of Black communities as part of Pro Black Health. It's stated that you direct up to 50% of net profits to nonprofits focused on wellness and healing. And you all have already spoken very highly about how you're doing your best to pay back the community in whatever form or fashion. So outside of the 50% of the net profits, are there other ways that you all are trying to invest back into the health and wellness of Black communities? It could be awareness, it could be things that you offer at your store, things that you do within the with the community, things of that nature.
Yeah, we do a lot of pop-ups here in Atlanta, pop-ups within the community, getting right in front of the community, educating them on vitamins, educating them on health. Also, we do an email educational series where we talk about health and wellness. We also do our social media stuff where Dr. K talks and, YouTube and all those different things. But we do a lot in the community in Atlanta. We're hoping to grow that. The big goal is to have teams in different markets when we get to that point. And because eventually we would like to be able to do more of the outreach ourselves. But because we're all self-funded, this is a self-funded brand for me and my wife. We count on the nonprofits that we work with to do the work within the community. And we would love to do more, but like you're working on a brand full time, she's a surgeon, we're trying to, but we would love to have that piece in within the company and be able to do more of that. That's the ultimate goal, like pro black health buses, where we like take vital signs and stuff in the community. We want to make a real change and movement, and that's the long time vision. And so where people can see every time they buy a vitamin, they're also helping the Black community, and being able to document that and show that we can make a difference. Just one purchase at a time, we can make a difference in the community and see that in action. Is my dream to see like, man, we're really making a difference. And you at home and you take your vitamins, you're like, I'm a part of that too. I did that too. And that's the feeling we want.
Because we always say, Pro Black Health is not a vitamin company, it's a movement. So pro Black, promoting the good health in the Black community is what we are about. Like this is just one facet of it, from the podcast that we do and the collaborations and partnerships that we had done with like different organizations. It's really all about education. And one thing that I know is, how do you talk to a certain audience where they can understand it and retain it? And sometimes it takes extra time to explain the why or to explain the how. If you just tell somebody something and there's no point of reference, it's very difficult for I think, people to understand the importance and to be able to change or adhere to the guidance. So, you know, as I have the privilege of being a Black woman, so, and most of my patients are Black and brown, so I can talk to them in a different way than, let's say, somebody of from the majority would. I understand the colloquialisms, I understand the experience to be able to make it like this is real. Like I'm in the military, we talk about touching hearts and minds. I know how to touch the hearts and minds of our people because I am part of our people. And it's not about talking beneath them or above them or side to side, but how do I figure out where you are and get you the messaging that you need so you understand that, your present state is temporary. And there is no clock that you can be aware of that will let you know when you will flip from good to not so good to bad. So you have to always stay vigilant. It's about, in the blink of an eye, 10 years will be gone and you haven't changed anything, but you have 10 years of wear and tear and destruction happening that a lot of it you may not be able to recoup or recover from. So just because you still cute and you look good and you ain't got no wrinkles does not mean the inside is just not going to hell in a handbasket. So it's like changing that perspective of, we age very well and most of us feel pretty good, in our 20s and 30s, even going into our 40s. But it's the inside where people get that devastating news. Oh, your blood pressure is at stroke levels and you're 35. Or you've had a cousin who had a full stroke in their 30s and has paralysis. But probably up until that point, he was chilling. He was cool. Like, and it's like it's you just don't know when your body will pull the pin on that grenade unless you understand how the grenade functions and where it is, where you're keeping it. Is there a box around it? Like, what are you doing to make sure that the pin just doesn't come out and you're like, oh, I had no idea that the pin was exposed and someone pulled it. You should always be aware of what your present status is and how do you maintain that to be as good as possible for as long as possible.
Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Here at We're Not Okay, a community of healing, we've built a space where individuals can come together to process grief, manage stress, and share truths that are often carried in silence. Now, healing isn't only about conversation. It's also about getting the right support when you need it most.
That's where BetterHelp comes in. They connect you with licensed therapists online, anytime, anywhere. So you can get guided help from an expert in a supportive space you can trust. Therapy isn't just for the hard moments. It's also a tool for personal growth and development. And one of the best features of BetterHelp is that if you don't feel like that first therapist is the right fit, you can easily switch to a therapist that you truly connect with.
With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5-star rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform that you can rely on. It's something that you can trust. So visit betterhelp.com/the not okay pod. Again, but it's going to be down here too. betterhelp.com/the not okay pod. And with that, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy. Because just like this community, you don't have to work through life's challenges alone. Thank you both. I will continue to say that throughout the conversation just because this it's vital conversations, it's vital discussion, it's information that it's not only something that we need to speak on, but it's also something, as you both have spoken about so much, we need to make sure that we're actively doing. It's something where, as we see now, we see people that are, as you mentioned, about losing someone, and at such a young age, we have people that we're losing in like their 20s, their 30s. This whole thing of you get old and that's when you're no longer here. That's no longer the narrative anymore. It's really, how are we truly choosing to take care of our bodies? And if we're not, unfortunately, we're seeing where people are leaving a little bit sooner than we intend them to, or they intend to. And it's a very real conversation that we need to the best of our ability, not only talk about seriously, but find ways to execute in a serious way. So thank you all for again bringing that back to the surface.
Absolutely.
And I also like to think about it as I think over the last, I don't know, let's say 20, 30 years, have become as a community more savvy about financial education. So the importance of good credit and all that stuff. But to me, our health is very similar, right? So I say if you're able to maintain good credit when you're older and you want to purchase a house or you want to purchase a car, you can get the best rates and have the most options. Well, our
Mhm.
health should be looked at in a very similar way. So you want to build as many good health credits when you're young, and so that when you're older, that gives you more options. You're able to travel, you're able to do the job, or able to work in general. You're able to do the things that you want because you've given yourself the bandwidth to be healthy enough to sustain whatever the daily activities are of living the life that you want. A lot of people who are on dialysis Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they can't go anywhere. They can't have a job, or they let their weight get so out of control. They have back problems and knee problems, or the diabetes, you're going blind. There's so many things where they did not put in the work to maintain enough good health credits to give them all the options that they want when they're older to do with what they really want to do. I mean, I just can't imagine being older and then, thinking about my younger life and how I imagined it would be and being limited. And that limitation was my health and physicality. And I could have done something about it when I was younger, where I would not have shorted myself of a lot of these opportunities.
And you make a really good point. My husband's grandma passed away a few months ago, and she was 95.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we went to go see her in hospice, and it was interesting because she was at that point where the her cognitive was coming in and out, right? So
Mhm.
there'd be moments where it was like, oh, she's so clear, and there'd be moments where it was like she was gone for a little bit. But in one of her moments of clarity, one thing she said was, don't get old. And I'm like, I want to get old. But then she said, if you don't take care of yourself when you're young,
Mhm.
Mhm.
because she was having the issues that she was having at that time because she had had a stroke. Um, Many of the years leading up to that, she had a lot of health issues. And I think in hindsight, even in that, even though, you're thinking her mind is going in and out, how does she have such a clear moment? It was like she knew enough to say, like, don't do what I did.
Mhm.
Because she was focused on what a lot of us are focused on, right? Like, how do I look on the outside? What do
Mhm.
I own on the outside, right? Like, oh, I
Mhm.
have this beautiful house, I have this beautiful car. Look at my hair, look at my nails, look at, but internally, it's a mess in here. It's really ugly in here, right? Like
It's a
it's the whole
dumpster fire.
yes, yes. So when you shared that about like look at all the things that we don't do focus on, or the talk about like look at what we're spending our money on, right? Like these are really good points, and these are points that I mean I got to hear firsthand from someone who lived a very, very, very long life. Um, your story is inspiring. The work you're doing is inspiring for our community. I also want to say shout out to New York. I'm from Harlem, just because you said the
Oh,
beginning. Just wanted to say
yeah.
that. Justin loves that. He's from Boston. So one thing that came to mind as you were sharing your story, you're sharing the work that you do, and especially the fact that you're able to, reach our community in a very personal way. Um, what advice would you give to other people who want to get into the wellness industry as well, who are hearing your stories, watching this on YouTube and just saying, I wish I could be, in a position that like they are. I know we hear a lot of people, even with us, they'll go, how did you get a podcast? What do you do? And I'm like, it's easy, do this, and this. Like I have no problem just like sharing it. And so we were just wondering, what advice would you give to others who are inspired by your work?
Yeah, I mean, specifically for health and wellness, start from a place of you have to love it. We both been very healthy and try to be healthy. I love to exercise, work out, and you have to run to do anything in a business. You have to love it because it's very difficult So if you love health and wellness and you love the people will come. Like that's the thing. And I think you have to look at it from that angle and look at it from how you can benefit people versus what's going to benefit you. For us, it was easier because we were already successful, so we really didn't have to like build a brand to where we had to make a ton of money. So it was more of a passion thing. So I understand sometimes it's difficult because you may want to build a brand to make money. So I mean, I understand it's kind of two different things. We kind of had a because it's very expensive, and luckily we had the resources to do it. But if you love it and build the community first and get the people who love you in the community. And then if they love you, whatever you bring before them and they trust you, I think would work. In anything, and it may just be education, it may be training, it may be product, it may be anything, but do it from a place of love, which is so hard for a lot of business owners because, you know, the bottom line is so important. So I can definitely understand both ways of that.
And I would add to that, draw from your personal experience. So something that touches your heart. Like my mother passed away from breast cancer when I was 12. My grandmother passed away from ovarian cancer. But everybody has their story. Somebody who's close to them who had an issue, whether it be mental health, whether it be HIV, whatever it is. And if that story touches you and you would like to prevent that same outcome or would like to nurture the cause of prevention for said, pathology or disease, sometimes that's where you start because that's where you're the most familiar with. And a lot of it is like going to church. It's a testimonial, right? So oftentimes me telling what I've seen in real time means more than me just, saying facts to you or numbers. This is like what I've seen with my two eyes. This is what I've done with my two hands. Like this is real. And when you come from a place of this is my experience, it hits a little bit different than talking about situations that you may be very knowledgeable in, but it's something to say for having it kind of come close to home for you. And I think that's a good place for people to start who are interested in education and bettering the community. Find something that you're passionate about or you are, really leaves a burden on you for you to feel the need to uplift and help change that narrative for other people, but from like a personal place.
You, you know, it made me think about something. This is maybe totally off the subject, but I was thinking about the movie Get Out, right? And that particular movie, and I thought about when you said your grandma was 95, it's just like we have some of the greatest physical body specimen. African Americans are like some of the most incredible bodies and species and minds on the earth. And when I think about that movie, they want to change bodies with us, and that was what that movie was all about. And it's like we have these beautiful skin. It's beautiful. We can get old. Like let's take care of it. Let's take care of the inside so the outside because you could be walking around healthy and feeling good at 75 and looking 45, 55. Like that is so dope to me. You ain't got to get nothing pulled back. You ain't got to get nothing cut up. You good. You already got everything you need. Let's just get together and take care of that inside because we get chronic diseases earlier. We got all these things, and it's just a simple step from supplementation, from diet, from exercise. I mean, I hope this movement just gets just a overall change within the community. If I could just, tap my fingers and make it happen so fast, I would. But we're going day by day. But cherish this beautiful body that we have and that you have. So that's my.
And I will add to that, not only cherish it, but don't wait for someone outside of you or our community to help change or make a difference in our best interests. Because it's not the structure of our society, it's not in their best interest to help us. And I think, Darren like to say we were like a sleeping giant. I think we got, when people think of like civil rights, it feels like so long ago because there was obvious Jim Crow and separation, and you couldn't go to the white doctor and all these things. But a lot of that was just kind of masked differently. There are still a lot of biases. There's still a lot of differences in access to care. And I think that we were lulled to think that, oh, because the nation is better, someone or some people will reach down and help us. And if we haven't seen in the last 8 years, that is not going to happen and things are reverting back and getting worse, that we need to empower ourselves to help ourselves. We have to be a united tribe to help each other, because there's not going to be a lot of external assistance just for the sake of helping us purposes.
Yeah, that's all.
And I think we need to get back on focus of, we can help everybody, but we need to really focus on helping each other. And do not expect a handout. Do not expect, some kind of Superman or savior to fix our situation. If it comes, great, but we need to work inside out to make these changes and to have this education and to figure out the funding and to figure out the different ways that we can strengthen our community. Because right now it's not there. A lot of people just assume that the government, there's this some pipeline or system for certain people. BS, BS, BS. What are, like, you will die waiting. And why put your future in somebody else's hands? We need to take that ownership back immediately, because every second counts. And I really hope that through like your podcast and us, it's really about empowerment. And ownership is legacy, right? So doing things that, I think as Americans and people in general, we always think about the end result, the prize is being successful. But the things that we are doing, it's going to take a long time for that wheel to turn. But any progress is a success, because our goal is to help people in generations that are going to outlive us, who will we will never meet them. Everybody will be somebody's ancestors. So I would love to be in a history book or somewhere as putting our stamp in the trajectory to a better health. As like I feel that you guys are, like we want to make a difference. And it's little baby steps, but those stack and those become bigger, but we have to work together.
And I think those are both great points when it comes to not only leaving a legacy and helping ourselves, right? But also the advice for future people who want to, move into the wellness industry. We had someone on the podcast who's actually also based in Atlanta, Dr. Ed Garnes, and he shared, we were asking him, like, what advice would you give to people who want to, do similar work that you do, right? And he's like, well, first of all, they have to love Black people. Like, they have to genuinely have a love for Black people. And I think when Darian talks about, like, you have to be passionate about this, Dr. K, when you talk about, like, we need to be, because we're here for each other, we need to be able to support each other. That has to really be your foundation. That love, that true love for it. Because as we all know, with the work that you all do, with the work that we do, there are so many hard days. And if you don't love it, it is so easy to go, oh, well, that was fun. And now it's done. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so you have to have that love. You have to have that true passion for it. So I think that is just amazing advice. I'm inspired. I'm not going to start a wellness business, but I'm inspired as well. Like, just from
you got to.
I'm just gonna buy y'all vitamins.
All of us.
Yeah, this is so much bigger than us. When you were just talking about, for some reason, I envisioned like generation from now, somebody got this hat on, just like one of, even when people say, man, when I got into the company and it really grew fast with COVID and all these things, and I was caught in between this space, like, man, you could really ramp it up and you could sell it and all these things. I'm like, I just want to build a legacy company that we own, that our people own, that it can grow and help our people. I'm not interested in no venture capitalists. I'm not interested in no funds, because once they get in, what do? They're gonna want to cut ingredients. They're gonna want to cut costs. They're gonna want to do all these things, and we've seen nightmares like that from hair products where they change the oil with, and you know, and I'm like, I cannot, in good conscience, have people believing in us and then do that. You know, this is gonna be ongoing, and it's gonna be passed down, and hopefully change lives for generations to come. That's really, it's owned by the people. We don't owe nobody no money. With every money we put back into the company, which has been blessed that we have been able to put in and grow, and we've been able to give back to over 30 nonprofits already and giving back and helping. So this is like a movement. And it gave me some, I'm just talking to you guys today because it was a rough day. I feel so much better just getting it out. Because sometimes you got to hear it because we're in it. You work in your business, you're in it. And then when someone's saying or someone sees the show or they say they see it, you be like, man, it is. So to see your faces and seeing you guys so positive, it means a lot to us, to me. I'm sure to you too.
Of course.
As we have this conversation, even listening to it, just it brings us joy as well. And just really looking at the dynamic of you two, just we see the passion, we see the partnership, but I think what's most important is the fact that we see kind of the parallel nature of how you both work so beautifully together. Like you are business partners, but partners in love, and that in and of itself, which I failed to ask a little bit earlier about, like what lessons you have learned about working together. But I'm going to do it a little bit differently because generally, when we come to a conclusion, we always have a surprise question. So I still want to ask that question because you all have flooded us with it works for couples to work together and build something. Like you can build an empire. And we see it from you all talking today, from how you all have built this business. So the surprise question that we're going to tweak a little bit.
Okay.
Now, we appreciate and we see how you all are doing your best to make the lives of others better. But what's
Hmm.
also always important is the moments where you can put yourself first. So, for you all, as we close, we want to ask you, Dr. K, and you, Darian, what are the moments that bring you the most joy? But this is how we're going to do it a little bit different. Dr. K, when you think of Darian, when you think of your partnership, or when you think about how you all are personally, what are the moments that where Darian may bring you joy? And then outside of Darian, what are the moments that bring you for your own personal individual joy?
I can say that when I think about Darian, I think about someone who is constantly thinking about what I like and how I feel and catering and building my environment based off of my wants and needs, often before his own. So it's like a feeling of security and safety and just genuine love, that somebody cares enough to try to make sure everything is how I want it. Not to say that everything I want is right or correct or the best, but that desire to make me happy and to see me smile is,
Hmm.
I think, is rare. I think it's rare air because I think, and even in relationships there can be jealousy and competition and all that. But to know that he has my best interests and not only my needs but my wants is like, I couldn't ask for something better. So it's like a safe, cozy place. Um, Outside of him, what we enjoy together is experiences. I think for a long time, with being busy, you comfort yourself with buying things. And now that, I'm on the other side of 46, I won't, you can tell them your age if you want. But but just seeing that, and my father is getting of age, it's about experiences. It's about spending time with family. It's about traveling. Those are the things that we're trying to prioritize because we can't take none of it with us. So while our minds are sharp and our legs are able, do everything possible to experience different cultures, different places, different things, because after a while you have more than enough stuff and it doesn't bring sustainable value. So, but you can have the memory of a trip or an experience forever in your head, even once you can't go there. But most material things, after a while, you get bored or they don't work or what have you. They have a very finite value to me versus a memory or really good experience, which is where we're trying to kind of shift our energy and resources towards.
And thank you for the show. I'm just kidding. No, for me, her humility, just because she's just such an amazing woman, just super smart, um, just beautiful, has got a great personality, just always bringing a smile to my face, doing something silly or just a laugh. And, you just think about um, just all that she's done, being a top surgeon, a chief of surgery, being a lieutenant colonel in the military, just like so many great things, but she's just so down to earth and just her. And I think that that is just the thing that just drew me to her the most because she's just herself. It's just even when we'll do like a podcast like this, and I'll be like, put on your medical jacket. She don't even want. She like, no. She like, but you know how most people they like a top surgeon. That's the first thing they got on, and they got on the stuff. But just being herself and just such a beautiful person, and I love her so much. And like she said, the different experiences are super important, and just time together. We're starting to spend more time together. Like we've been very busy with growing the business and other things, but travel and just going for a walk and just hanging out or just talking or just when, we just chilling and talking to each other is some of my best times because it's just like me and her and it's just our moment. So we'll probably make some people sick out there.
Yeah, sometimes you have to have that good type of sickness.
Yeah. Like,
Sometimes it's these moments that, we take for granted, but these are the moments that you have to like sit back and cherish, that you really have to hold on dearly to, because as we've mentioned, when we're talking about life, it's not something that's guaranteed. It's not something that we're going to have forever. So we have to appreciate the moments that we are, privileged to have. So let them be sick. But as long as you all are enjoying each other, it'll be okay. So we've come to the end of the road, unfortunately, but to say that I leave this conversation full would be an understatement. We are both so appreciative of the time, of the expertise, of the knowledge, of the fellowship, all of this, for what you all have coming in the future, which you all are providing right now. We appreciate and look forward to all of it. Again, we have the pleasure, the distinct pleasure of speaking with Pro Black Health. And who is Pro Black Health? Dr. K and and Darian, the McDaniels. Thank you both very much for taking the time to meet with us. Thank you for being part of our community of healing, and we look forward again to what you all have in store.
Thank you for having us. This was amazing.
This was great. Thank you so much. And what you guys doing is great. And I just want to see more of us in our community just come together. We got such a beautiful community, beautiful people, and we can do this. We're stronger together. Like let's do this.
Thank you.
Thank you too.